A woman named Sophia reminisces about her past. She recalls her mother working at a small restaurant and how she faced blood discrimination as a child, a concept hard to grasp for today's children who are born as friends. Sophia continues her recollection, sharing that despite the hardships, she grew up and met a man from a famed house who saw her without bias. Against his family's wishes, he chose to marry her. Her husband opened a weapons shop, and Sophia, wanting to be a supportive bride, studied hard to help him with the business. Though her mother passed away and many other things happened after she gave birth, Sophia looks back on this time, stating that in her memories, it was the happiest time of her life. The story shifts to the present political climate. 5 years ago, a disease called intestine rot broke out in the island country of Illyria. In response, the mother country, Steinberg, has enforced a blockade, causing shortages. This has led to chaos, with revolutionaries forming the Illystria Citizen Army to challenge the mainland-governed Old Capital Committee. The scene is set in Dacia, a small arms manufacturing region in central Illystria. Inside the Waldron small arms shop, a young girl named Nadia is called over by her mother, Sophia, to listen to music playing from an old radio. Sophia looks at her daughter with concern, wondering about her future, while her husband, Rubens, laughs it off, saying she's still too young to worry about. The happy family moment, with Rubens playing with Nadia and Sophia laughing, is suddenly interrupted by a breaking news bulletin on the radio. The radio reports a firefight in the southern town of Mapyam between the nobles' committee army and violent agitators. As they listen, both Rubens and Sophia's expressions grow grim, recalling the disturbances that started around the time they got married. As Sophia asks Rubens if it's truly safe there, a soldier appears at the door, announcing that Colonel Gisgoro has arrived. Rubens reassures Sophia, telling her not to worry, as they have the protection of the island army and the local patrol militia. He boasts that a single shot from their friend Matt's flare gun would bring the militia running, comparing Matt's quick friendship to that of a servant. Sophia, holding Nadia close, agrees half-heartedly and says she'll go prepare some tea. At the dinner table, the portly and boisterous Colonel Gisgoro loudly compliments Rubens on his beautiful wife. He then makes an unsettling comment about wanting to see how her brother looks, causing Rubens to laugh awkwardly while Sophia looks displeased. Through the window, the tense dinner continues. Sophia explains to the colonel that her mother passed away due to the disease. Colonel Gisgoro offers a half-hearted apology, which Sophia dismisses. Internally, she thinks about what an old pervert he is. Rubens quickly changes the subject, asking what the colonel wanted to discuss. Gisgoro begins, stating that public order has worsened due to the epidemic and blockade. He explains that to contribute to the island's order and employment, the army has decided on a large-scale recruiting effort. He continues, explaining that they need to gather a large number of high-quality rifles for the rear-line forces and new recruits, causing Rubens to sweat nervously. Colonel Gisgoro specifies the order: 700D, 38-type rifles, and 400K, 1522 handguns, to be delivered within 8 days. He acknowledges that it's a tall order. Despite the difficulty, Rubens eagerly accepts the order, stammering for them to leave it to him, while Sophia looks on with a forced smile. Outside, Colonel Gisgoro speaks with his subordinate Dane. The colonel smirks, revealing he has prepared a lieutenant position for Dane, stating that the chaos in the army command is the perfect time for a special soldier like him to advance. Meanwhile, Rubens celebrates with his family, overjoyed at the prospect of becoming rich. He doesn't see the colonel's threat. If he succeeds, he will become the colonel's direct subordinate, his hands, and he must not mess up the mission. The narration explains that Rubens, operating independently with his wife's help, was able to fill the massive order by negotiating with other merchants for a special order. It became a well-known story that Rubens would bring his wife to every important negotiation, calling her his goddess of victory. In reality, though he managed to fill the near-impossible 1,000 small arms order, Sophia was dragged through tense streets, her expression betraying a deep-seated worry that overshadowed their success. The delivery date arrives, March 21st, 1541. As night falls over a desolate landscape, Sophia peers out from a dark archway, her posture radiating the dread that has been building within her ahead of their fateful journey. As they stand in the storeroom, Rubens apologizes to Sophia for forcing her into his life and troubling her with his occupation, knowing she has no interest in guns. He tells her that if his deal goes through, he'll become more prominent. Sophia expresses her unease, telling Rubens she has a bad feeling and feels like they've been watched recently. Rubens tries to dismiss her fears, saying the client is just concerned because it's a big deal. But Sophia questions why they would need to buy so much from a small merchant when larger suppliers exist, and notes that the guard, Matt, hasn't been seen all day. Rubens remarks on her scary accurate observations, but tries to reassure her, saying that as long as they get paid, it's fine. He comforts her, saying the military is backing them this time, so there shouldn't be any problems. As they stand under an archway at night, watching a convoy approach, Rubens smiles, but Sophia looks apprehensive. Down below, a group of men see the shop and confirm that the Waldron Small Arms shop is there. Outside the shop, as a horse-drawn wagon waits, Rubens notes that the approaching men don't look like the transporters and asks who they are. Sophia clutches their child, Nadia, with a worried expression. The armed men reveal themselves to be the Illustria Liberation Citizen Army. They menacingly thank the family for donating their weapons to the struggle. Realization dawns on Rubens and Sophia's faces as they understand it's a trap. Sophia realizes these men are not from the colonel, and they'll have to give up the shipment and the money. The men offer their sincerest appreciation and promise not to harm them if they don't resist, but the sinister image of Colonel Gisgoro flashes in their minds. Facing the armed group, a naive Rubens asks if they're going to pay. The leader's expression darkens as he realizes they don't intend to support their cause. Sensing the hostility, Rubens yells a change of plan to his men. Wait for his signal to fire, then immediately haul the crates and leave before the patrol militia arrives. As the citizen army moves in to seize the goods, Sophia screams for her husband. Sophia begs Rubens to forget the money, but he apologizes, explaining that he stretched too much for this deal, and they'll be homeless tomorrow if no one pays. A shot rings out in the night. Rubens is hit, and Sophia is thrown back by the force of the blast, a look of horror on her face. As Rubens lies bleeding on the ground, one of the attackers explains their actions. He states that a merchant's pride is cash in one hand and merchandise in the other, and that they too were once merchants and civilians. Their baby, Nadia, is taken from Sophia's arms. The attacker continues, saying that now, only weapons merchants like them have the means to resist. As Sophia's eye bleeds profusely and she collapses in despair, he tells her that if she wants to curse someone, she should curse her own lack of understanding of their fight to reclaim their pride and change the island. 1 month later, Sophia awakens with a start in Dacia City Hospital. Her left eye is bandaged. She frantically sits up, screaming for Rubens, her body trembling from the traumatic memory. As Sophia tries to get out of bed, a sharp pain shoots through her head from her wound. Just then, Colonel Gisgoro and his subordinate Dane enter the room. Seeing them, Sophia remembers being shot and frantically asks about her husband Rubens and their daughter Nadia. Gisgoro offers a fake apology for the trouble they encountered. Sophia demands to know where her husband is. With a cruel grin, Colonel Gisgoro informs her that her husband was shot and died at the scene, the shipment was stolen, and she has lost her left eye. He mockingly tells her it's a pity she's lost everything. With feigned sincerity, Colonel Gisgoro declares what a shame it is to have lost an outstanding weapons supplier, claiming he feels sorry from the bottom of his heart. Dane stands by silently. Devastated, Sophia trembles and whispers her daughter's name, asking where her child is. Gisgoro cheerfully informs her that Nadia is absolutely fine. The patrol militia found her at the scene, and she is now under their care. A wave of relief washes over Sophia as she begs to see her. Gisgoro's demeanor changes. He looks down on Sophia, telling her that she should know her place now, as she is no longer the wife of an outstanding weapons merchant. He continues his verbal assault with a vicious sneer, reminding her that she is a mixed born from a prostitute mother, essentially a bastard child. He cruelly asks if she thinks they can hand over one of the nation's future masters to a penniless and unskilled person like her. Gizgoro claims what they said is the truth and that she couldn't raise the child even if they gave her back. He then offers a better idea with a sinister grin. She can claim and raise her child if she agrees to become his mansion's maid. Gizgoro taunts her, saying she would look cute wearing sensual clothes and that with money and shelter, raising a child won't be a problem. The memory of being called a prostitute's child haunts her. Gazing at her bandaged face in the reflection, she resigns herself, thinking that for Nadia, there is no other choice. As Sophia weakly pushes herself up from the bed, Gizgoro laughs maniacally, delighted with his great idea. Sophia covers her mouth, her visible eye wide with horror and despair. But Sophia, weeping, cannot accept the horrifying price. She refuses. Colonel Gizgoro looks on, annoyed at her defiance. Gizgoro coldly replies, "Is that so?" He tells her it can't be helped and to do as she likes, abandoning her in the bleak hospital room. As he leaves, Gizgoro cruelly adds that he will do as he likes with a child abandoned by her mother, threatening to sell Nadia to traffickers. Horrified, Sophia asks why he would do such a thing instead of sending her to an orphanage. Gizgoro turns back with a sinister grin, stating that of course this happens because he has the power to do as he wants, and she has no power. He leaves with a final, chilling laugh, telling her he'll welcome her if she changes her mind. On his way out, he immediately begins shamelessly flirting with a nurse, commenting on her beauty. Later, a nurse comes in, happy to see Sophia is awake and ready to change her bandages. But after the nurse leaves, Sophia is left alone again, sitting silently in the sterile room. The days pass, and Sophia remains in her hospital bed. The light in the room fades to darkness, mirroring the despair consuming her. In the darkness, Sophia is overwhelmed by grief, shedding silent tears for everything she has lost. Amidst her tears, she remembers her husband Ruben's words, a promise he made to her. If anything happens, there's something hidden in the top step of the stairs. If you sell it, you should be able to live. From her hospital bed, framed by the barred window, Sophia whispers the names of her lost husband and child, a new resolve forming in her heart. 1 month later, Sophia returns to her home, which has been completely ransacked and ruined. With a determined look, she states, "They took everything." Dressed in black and wearing an eye patch, Sophia makes her way to the staircase in her desolate home. Remembering her husband's words, she pries open the top step of the stairs, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside, she finds a limited production sniper rifle. She recognizes its rarity and knows it could fetch a high price. Colonel Gizgoro's mocking words, "And you have no power," echo in her mind, giving her a new sense of purpose. Clutching the rifle, a symbol of the power she now seeks, Sophia goes to the Dacia Patrol militia. She startles the commander by declaring her intention to enter the militia as a sniper. The militia's commander, a man with spiky dark hair, informs her that while they are recruiting, they don't need snipers, as their patrol duties are different from military activities. Holding her rifle, Sophia stands silently before the militia members. The commander acknowledges that they know of her tragedy and understand her desire for revenge on the liberation citizens, but he remains hesitant. A militia member with long hair explains that a sniper requires first-rate aiming, strength, and concentration far above a normal soldier, a rifleman capable of killing the enemy before they even know what hit them. He explains that as a simple town patrol, they've never trained a sniper and wouldn't know how to use one. He is also surprised to see she has a rare D-31S rifle. The commander tells Sophia he knows her request is unreasonable but offers her a position as a secretary if she donates the valuable rifle. He suggests that being a sniper is too heavy a job for a gentle woman like her and asks her to reconsider. Sophia looks the commander in the eye and insists, "Let me be the sniper." She states that she has no other choice and pleads with the other members. With unwavering determination, She holds a rifle and vows to endure any training. Her resolve leaves the commander and the other militia members speechless. Sophia begins her grueling training. A national broadcast announces that the Nobles Committee has offered a bounty on Ravinda Jobini, the leader of the Liberation Citizen Army. As Sophia does sit-ups, another recruit jokes that if he becomes friends with her, he might get a chance to touch her gun. She also attends classroom lessons, where an instructor explains that a bullet's trajectory is affected by environmental factors like gravity, temperature, wind, and rain. The instructor mockingly calls her Miss Wifey and tells her not to forget this and cause trouble in battle. While the other recruits look bored or distracted during the lesson, Sophia remains focused, determined to learn everything she can. The scene shifts to a view through a sniper scope, aimed at several targets in a wooded area. An instructor's voice commands the recruits to line up their sights, pull the trigger, and then quickly withdraw their finger from the trigger guard. At the firing range, the captain informs Sophia that because her gun is special, she will have some personal training later. Sophia acknowledges the order, her heart pounding with anticipation at the thought of the personal training. The command to fire is given, and the recruits unleash a volley of shots from their positions. Two female recruits cover their ears from the noise. The instructor loudly calls for a ceasefire. He reminds the recruits that firing practice is rare due to their lack of budget, and they must retrieve their casings. The recruits grumble about their poor aim, with one noting his shot didn't even scratch the target and another having lost his casing. Later, the captain begins Sophia's personal training. He explains that the most important step is zeroing the rifle, which means adjusting the sights so the bullet can land perfectly on target. He nervously wonders if he can truly teach her, while other recruits look on, one asking about binoculars, learning that if the rifle isn't zeroed in before a battle, you might not know where your bullets went. At a training ground, a new recruit, Sophia, is learning how to use a sniper rifle. An instructor explains the basics of the scope, telling her to aim for the center on a distant target. He points out the knobs for vertical and horizontal adjustments, setting it for 150 meters. He then explains how to compensate for the difference between the aim point and the hit point, which a spotter would normally help with in battle. Sophia takes a shot. The instructor tells her to try again for the same target, noting that in battle, there's no time for slow adjustments. A sniper has to adjust on the fly based on the spotter's report. He tells her to try again, as her last shot was off by a few centimeters. She lies prone, readying for her next shot, as the scope's view shows the corrected aim. With a determined gaze, Sophia peers through the scope, her focus entirely on the target. But her shot misses, kicking up dirt far from the intended target in the distance. Her fellow soldiers comment on the miss, one noting with pity that she hit the neighboring target. The instructor, however, remains patient. He tells Sophia to calm down and aim for the previous target again, suggesting the recoil is too strong for her and advising her to dig her feet in and use her stomach to counter the kick. Despite the advice, Sophia's subsequent shots go wild, missing everything. The instructor, looking through his binoculars, is bewildered. He mutters that it's as if she has no shooting skills at all, which is strange because her D31 rifle is a rare, accurate prototype. Seeing the chaotic results, he orders everyone to cease firing. The instructor dismisses the squad, and the other soldiers walk away, leaving a dejected Sophia kneeling on the ground. The instructor looks on, thinking to himself that while the gun is great, it's useless at this rate. He laments that he can't ask her to hand it over because it's a precious keepsake from her husband. One of her squad mates stays behind to offer a word of encouragement, telling Sophia not to worry and that everyone knows she's trying her best. The scene then transitions, showing the exterior of a stately building. Inside, a corrupt, high-ranking officer named Gisgoro smirks as he looks out a window. From another room, a soldier is seen using binoculars, confirming that the sniper missed the target. Gisgoro sits with a woman on his lap, speaking to a young officer. He declares that the anti-revolution elements need to be removed. With a cruel smile, he states that since their sniper is useless, he will command the invasion of Dacia himself and give the patrol one more push to cause chaos. The young officer listens with a worried expression as Gisgoro boasts. Gisgoro plans to tell the citizen soldiers that a professional like him will be commanding them from the front, believing it will boost their morale as he dreams of command. Later that night, Sophia's squad mates find her. Despite the day's cruelty, they kindly invite her to eat with them. She quietly accepts their offer. In the mess hall, a soldier with black hair asks Sophia if she has gotten used to being there yet. Looking down, she admits that there are still a lot of uncertainties. Another soldier at the table brings up the political situation, asking what will happen to the Daisha Patrol militia if the island army and the liberation citizens fight. He wonders if they should follow the noble committee or join the rebellion. The black-haired soldier states that they will likely do neither. Their mission is simply to protect the city. If anyone threatens its order or citizens, they will fight them, but otherwise, they will do nothing. Sophia looks up, finding his answer to be unreasonable. As Sophia ponders this, her long-haired squad mate laughs, saying the philosophy is simple. Kill the enemy, so their allies can live, though he's never shot anyone himself. Suddenly, the door to the hall bursts open. A hush falls over the room. It's an army messenger. The captain of the patrol militia looks up from his table, a concerned expression on his face as he wonders why the messenger is here. The soldiers all turn their attention to the door. Sophia and the others at her table get up, asking their captain what's happening as the messenger strides into the room. The captain takes a piece of paper from the messenger and reads it to the assembled soldiers. It's a Liberation Citizens Rebellion notice. He announces that the army is aware that tomorrow, after sunrise, all Liberation Citizen soldiers will raise their flag to take back self-rule from the committee. The soldiers are stunned into silence. The notice continues, outlining the army's position. They will observe silently, with the exception of the committee guards. Each city's patrol militia must decide the future of the island for themselves. It's an ultimatum. If they don't hand over control by tomorrow, there will be battle and many casualties. The offer comes with a promise. If the revolution succeeds, there will be positions for them in the army or other government organizations. The Liberation Army will fire signal flares, and if the militias wish to support them, they are to fire the same flare. The soldiers realize a rebellion is imminent, and their island is about to change forever. The soldiers immediately begin arguing. The long-haired soldier wonders if it's better to side with the army, given the promise of future positions. The captain, however, angrily questions if it's really better than the committee. Sophia, listening intently, suspects it's an obvious lie. Sophia speaks her mind, her voice cutting through the noise. She states that while the Liberation Citizen Army claims to be the best hope for the island, she believes they are truthfully just a gathering of violent thugs and criminals. The captain builds on Sophia's point, agreeing that the rebels are not driven by ideology. He argues that they are fickle opportunists who aren't rebelling for the good of the nation, but will swallow their words and change their stance whenever their whim changes, making them untrustworthy. As the men around her continue to waver, caught between two bad choices, Sophia's resolve hardens. Cutting through their indecision, she makes her stance clear. I will fight to protect this town. Her declaration hangs in the air, a direct challenge to their hesitation. A female soldier, Yuzaha, speaks up against Sophia's declaration. She points out that the Liberation Citizen Army were all originally civilians, just like them. She argues that everyone is unhappy with the committee, but fighting each other would only lead to mutual destruction. Sophia turns to the group, her voice filled with conviction. She tells them that if they want to lose everything like she has, they can reply to the Liberation Army's offer and she won't complain. But she doesn't want to stand with them, and she will fight to the end, even if she has to do it alone. Moved by her words, an older soldier begins to weep. He laments that if they leave things to the Liberation Army and the regular army, it could be dangerous as they would do anything to pursue their goals. He cries that on an island where everyone has a motive, the militia members, who are like good little boys, are the strange ones for simply wanting to protect their home. The captain, Dalhan, looks from the crying soldier to Sophia, taking in the weight of their words and the gravity of the decision before them. Dalhan finally speaks, his voice firm. He says he doesn't object to their reasoning, admitting the committee is dog's hit. However, having seen what happened to Sophia, he knows the revolutionaries are just thugs in sheep's clothing and doesn't believe they could maintain order if the city was handed over to them. With his decision made, Dalhan rallies the troops. He declares that as the city's guard militia, it is now their duty to eliminate this threat to the city's stability. He orders everyone not on duty to be gathered immediately. Dalhan gives his final orders for the night. They cannot allow Daisha to fall into chaos. It's time for them to stand up and protect their homes. He commands them to prepare for battle and gather at headquarters before dawn, then dismisses the tense assembly. The scene is set at the dawn of February 20th, 1941. Under a dark, pre-dawn sky, soldiers' feet hurry across a field. Inside a briefing room, a hand draws a strategic map on a chalkboard, preparing for the coming battle. Dalhan stands before the assembled militia. The room is filled with soldiers, armed and ready. He looks out at his troops and asks if everyone is present. The soldiers, including Sophia and Manadu, stand at attention, their faces a mixture of apprehension and determination. The briefing for the defense of Daisha is about to begin. Dalhan begins the briefing, using a large map of the Daisha southwestern region. He outlines the plan. The main forces, squads A, B, and C, will take a position with an open view. If the Liberation Army signals for them to join, they will instead use a flare to bait them out. He believes the enemy is not as organized as the island's army and lacks formal training, making them a manageable threat. Dalhan continues, warning his soldiers that the city may have rebel sympathizers, so smaller units must be careful. He makes their stance clear. When the Liberation Army asks for support, the militia will reply with bullets, forcing them to fight to the end. Dalhan assigns the squad leaders. Arnis will lead Squad B, and Richard will lead Squad C. These two squads, along with Dalhan's own squad, will form the main force at the southwest center line. Squad D, led by Rick, and Squad E, led by Leon, are assigned to patrol the city. Dalhan then addresses Yuzaha, the combat medic, telling her not to do anything too dangerous. Next, Dalhan assigns the support roles. Sophia and Manadu are designated as the support squad, serving as the team snipers. Another soldier, Subahan, is assigned as the message carrier, who will have to rely on his horse for communication as they have no wireless. Dalhan gives specific orders to Manadu. He is to be Sophia's spotter. Because she only has her right eye, Manadu must not only assist in her aim, but also watch her surroundings and handle any close combat. Another soldier mutters about the pairing being useless. Dalhan adds that Sophia's rifle uses special ammo, and they only manage to find 15 rounds. Dalhan explains the sniper's role, quoting an old saying, "A single shot from a sniper is the same as 1,000 infantry rifle shots." However, he isn't asking for perfect shots to kill the enemy. He wants a different kind of sniping, to hinder the enemy's movement, buy them time, and force a stalemate by letting the enemy know they have snipers. Dalhan concludes the briefing. He tells the sniper team they can decide their own targets, but the timing will be crucial. He will use his whistle to signal when to shoot, and they are not to fire before his command. With that, he orders them to move out. At 5 a.m. on the same day, the militia moves out. A soldier's boots tread through the grass as they advance across the landscape under a dark, ominous sky. While the main force advances through the fields, Sophia and Manadu are led to their sniper position in a room on an upper floor of a house, giving them a vantage point over the area. As they enter the room, Manadu mentions that someone called them a useless pairing. He then turns to Sophia and nervously confesses that even though he's a senior member, he actually has no field experience at all. Trying to sound confident, Manadu tells Sophia not to worry, as he will support her. He proudly declares himself an army otaku, a military enthusiast, much to Sophia's confusion. Out in the field, the mounted messenger, Subahan, reports to Captain Dalhan that all squads are in position. Dalhan acknowledges the report and tells his men to back up a bit for now. Suddenly, a flare streaks across the sky. It's the enemy's signal flare, confirming the rebellion notice was real. Dalhan immediately orders everyone to hold their fire, except for Richard, who is to fire their own flare in response. In the sniper's nest, Monadu spots the flare as Sophia readies her rifle. As the flare illuminates the sky, the soldiers on the ground tense up, their eyes fixed on the forest. Monadu, looking through his binoculars, nervously wonders what will happen next. The battlefield is quiet for a moment. Soldiers are spread out, taking cover behind trees along a dirt road as smoke from the flares drifts across the landscape. The tense standoff has begun. In the tense silence, a soldier asks Captain Dalhan if there is any way to avoid combat. From their sniper's nest, Monadu peers through his binoculars and notes that it's strange. There's no movement from the enemy. Suddenly, the sound of fierce gunfire erupts, but it's coming from the opposite direction of the flare. Dalhan realizes with dawning horror that they've been tricked. The flare was a diversion, and the enemy's true intention was always to take the city by force. The messenger Subahan arrives with new intelligence. Dalhan immediately changes plans, ordering C Squad and 3 of his own men from a squad to return to the city with him. He tells Subahan to take the medic Yaha into the city and alert the sniper squad to prepare to fire, promising to create an opportunity for them. The battle is already raging at the western staging area. The militia forces are defending a building from a chaotic assault, with their leader yelling at them not to fire randomly and to let the attackers come closer. The attacking Liberation Army, a disorderly mob of armed civilians, charge forward screaming, "Free the island," and "Down with the old." Squad leader Rick's militia members are taken aback by their sheer bloodlust as they struggle to return fire from behind their barricades. The view through a pair of binoculars shows the enemy force charging through the woods, a disorganized but determined group. The observer confirms what they feared. The rebels planned to take the city by force from the very beginning. From their perch, Sophia wants to move to support the west sector, saying their position is useless. Monadu stops her, insisting they follow the captain's orders not to fire before his signal. As they argue, a friendly soldier bursts in, warning them that there are patrol guards, rebel sympathizers, in the last room on the right. Before they can react, the door to the adjoining room is kicked in. The rebel sympathizers have found them. Monadu is sent sprawling as the intruders storm the hallway. As the armed intruders burst through the doorway, Sophia reacts with lightning speed, drawing a revolver and preparing to defend their position. Without a moment's hesitation, Sophia opens fire. In the tight confines of a room, she unleashes a quick succession of shots, catching the intruders completely by surprise while Monadu watches, stunned, from the floor. The rebel sympathizers are cut down in the doorway, their assault ending as quickly as it began. Monadu, still reeling, asks Sophia where she learned to fire a handgun that fast, figuring she must have some experience as a weapons merchant's daughter. Sophia, however, dismisses the idea, saying it's not just about knowledge, as she turns her attention back to the battle outside. Sophia calmly chides Monadu, asking where he was firing since, as her spotter, he's supposed to protect her in close combat. Monadu can only stammer an apology, his mind racing as he wonders if her knowledge and experience somehow compensated for her terrible aiming at close distance. Just then, the messenger Subahan and the medic arrive on horseback below their window. He yells up, asking if they're alive. After Monadu confirms they are, Subahan relays the captain's new orders. Find targets to shoot at, and the coming lull in the fighting will be their signal. The scene flashes back to a happier time. Sophia's husband, Rubens, is teaching her how to shoot. He tells her the interesting part about firearms is their certainty. With the right operations, they always give you the right reply. He says that while many things in the world are out of one's control, guns won't betray you. A close-up on Sophia's eye in the present. She remembers her husband's words, thinking to herself, "Sorry, I don't know the certainty you speak of, but because I like you so much, I've tried hard to love guns." Her flashback ends. Monadu, seeing the enemy advance, yells at her to fire and stop them. Sophia, her resolve hardened, takes aim with her sniper rifle. Sophia slows her breathing, her heartbeat steadying. In the chaos of the battlefield below, her scope settles on a single target. She has found her mark. A shot rings out. A rebel, charging forward at a full sprint, screams as his hat is blown clean off his head by Sophia's bullet. The near miss sends a wave of panic through the rebel ranks as they shout, "Sniper!" Back at the militia line, Yuzaha reports to the captain in amazement that Sophia shot a man in the head while he was at a full sprint. On the battlefield, the rebels scramble for cover. Before the rebels can recover, another shot hits its mark, dropping an enemy soldier in a spray of blood. As another rebel falls, one of his comrades looks up and spots a glint of movement from the sniper's nest. He yells that he sees the sniper, but it's too late. A rebel leader, distinguished by a wide-brimmed hat, urges his men forward, telling them not to stop. His command is cut short as Sophia's bullet finds his head, and he falls, shocking his followers into a terrified halt. Back in the sniper's nest, Manhua is speechless. He watches in awe as Sophia expertly reloads. He can't believe what he's seeing. After her precise handgun shooting and now this, he realizes she isn't a beginner at all. She's a shooting genius. He wonders what her terrible performance at the practice field was all about. The militia soldiers behind the barricades cheer, witnessing Sophia's incredible skill. Down on the field, the 70-man rebel army is in complete disarray, pinned down by just 5 shots. They scream in panic, unsure of what to do, their assault completely stalled by a single, unseen sniper. Seeing the enemy thrown into chaos by Sophia's shots, Captain Dalhan seizes the opportunity. He rallies his men, yelling that now is a good time and for everyone to get ready. With the rebel forces panicked and exposed, Dalhan gives the command for his organized militia to pick their targets. The medic Yuzaha confirms she is ready. A soldier clicks the safety off his rifle. With his forces poised to attack, Dalhan gives the final, decisive order: fire. The entire line of militia soldiers unleashes a devastating, coordinated volley of gunfire upon the scattered and terrified rebel army, marking the true beginning of the battle for Dacia. Through her sniper scope, Sophia, also known as Manhua, confirms the enemy forces are in full retreat. Their defeat seems certain, sealing a victory for her side. Her spotter, the captain of the Dacia militia, looks through his binoculars at the fleeing enemy. He calls out to her, "Hey, Sophia." The captain praises Sophia, acknowledging her as a shooting genius whose skills are now beyond doubt. He then asks if she's willing to listen to a personal request he has for her. The battlefield is chaotic as soldiers from the militia take cover behind sandbags, returning fire against their unseen enemy. An officer declares that the engagement is over while the remaining enemy forces, a disorganized group of irregulars, are seen scrambling away in a panic. The captain rallies his troops, shouting a new plan. He orders 2 squads, led by Leon and Rick, to pursue the stragglers and sweep the city for any infiltrators. The soldiers respond with a determined, "We're on it, sir." He issues more commands, telling Subahan to have Arna's squad sweep the South Forest Road. The captain then reflects on their good fortune, muttering that they seem to have found a diamond in the rough, clearly referring to Sophia. Back in her sniper's nest, Sophia watches the unfolding scene with her rifle at the ready. Having processed the captain's request, she quietly says to herself, "Oh, that's it." As they reposition, the captain casually asks Sophia if her previous miss at the shooting range was an accident or intentional. Sophia, ignoring the question, looks out the window and reports new targets: South Forest. "I see 3 figures on a hill. One of them is riding a horse." As Sophia looks through her scope, she has a flash of recognition. She senses that the eyes of her new target are connected to the colonel responsible for robbing her of her home. A chilling thought crosses her mind. It might benefit me if I pretend I am bad. She steadies her resolve. Though she knows it's just a hunch, she is determined not to make the same mistake again. This time, she will follow her gut feelings. The captain asks Manhua to help him in his revenge, as the view through the scope settles on a portly, decorated officer. The very same man from Sophia's thoughts, Colonel Gisgoro. For Sophia, seeing him is satisfying enough, and all that's left is to pull the trigger. On the hill, a soldier on horseback shouts for Arna's status. Another soldier orders his troops to search for the enemy in the forest. Meanwhile, the smug Colonel Gisgoro gives a sinister command: launch the red flare. A soldier on the ground spots the red flare streaking across the sky. Understanding the signal, a command is given for the troops to advance and move up into the trees. Deep within the woods, a group of masked, heavily armed combatants lie in wait, poised for an ambush. The waiting combatants anticipate a blue flare. From his vantage point, the captain observes the enemy through his binoculars. He notes that even after being mauled, they aren't retreating, deducing they must have a clingy commander. The captain relays targeting information to Sophia. Target is at 1,050 meters from around 500 to 700 meters surrounding him. He provides weather details and reminds her about her rifle's left spin as she prepares for the shot. Peering through the scope, Sophia's thoughts are directed at her target, Colonel Gisgoro. And you have no power. Is that so, Colonel Gisgoro? Now, I want you to see who really has the power. The scene shifts. A group of people are being directed to the patrol militia headquarters for further instructions. Among them is a woman, presumably Sophia, holding a small child in her arms. A woman asks the captain if anyone will really volunteer for the militia. The captain looks towards Sophia in the distance and remarks that Minato's reason for joining was just as stupid, hinting at a past shared motivation. The image captures the violent impact of Sophia's shot. The bullet seemingly shatters reality itself as it tears through the room, striking down the man who lay on the floor while Sophia and the captain carried out their mission. Back on the hill, Colonel Gisgoro fumes with rage. An aide stammers, confirming the blue flare is ready. Gisgoro curses his luck, lamenting what a killjoy this turn of events is for his plans. The story flashes back to the past. A younger Colonel Gisgoro asks his subordinate, a young warrant officer Owen, if he got the intestine rot vaccine for a baby. They discuss selling the baby, but Owen notes that considering the risks, it might not be worth the cost. Warrant officer Owen elaborates that the ultimate goal is to have someone who can be completely controlled. Colonel Gisgoro muses that if no one buys the baby, he'll simply adopt the child himself, planning 14 or 15 years of training to forge a loyal subordinate who won't dare go against his commands. Such a person, adopted and raised in isolation, would have unlimited uses. As Owen confirms this ruthless logic, Colonel Gisgoro breaks into a wicked laugh, pleased that his adopted son, Warrant Officer Owen, grasps the full, cruel meaning of his plan. The flashback concludes as Sophia's bullet finds its mark. The devastating energy of a long-distance shot hits Colonel Gisgoro squarely in the head while he's on horseback, his cruel laughter cut short. The moment of impact is seen from multiple angles. Through Sophia's sniper scope and the captain's binoculars, the world shakes as Gisgoro's hat is blasted off his head from the force of the shot. The captain, looking through his binoculars, calmly confirms the kill. I confirm that the rider is down. Below, Sophia rests her head on her rifle, her revenge finally complete. On the ground, chaos erupts as a soldier scrambles away from the fallen colonel's body. Following the assassination of his second-in-command, Warrant Officer Owen calls off the second assault wave, recognizing their leadership is gone. With their leader gone and receiving a signal to stop, the 40-man enemy wave lost its focus. Lacking heavy firepower, they were swiftly destroyed by the small 7-strong patrol militia squad, ending the battle in a decisive victory for Daisha. The next day, the Daisha wireless broadcasting station comes on the air. The camera pans over the town, where soldiers stand guard amongst the makeshift defenses, the quiet aftermath of the previous day's battle. The radio announces that the Liberation Citizen Army's advance was halted by the militia. However, with communication lines to other cities severed, there is no news from other regions. As the broadcast mentions an emergency meeting called by the mayor, a hand reaches out to knock on a wooden door. The door opens to the militia's barracks, where the surviving members are gathered. A young soldier with dark hair peeks in, heralding the arrival of a visitor. Sophia has arrived, holding her daughter Nadia in her arms. One of her comrades greets her warmly, calling her their goddess of victory. The captain immediately asks how she got her baby back. Sophia apologizes for not being there for the cleanup, but her comrades reassure her. They acknowledge that there were fatalities, but one female soldier stoically states that they all made their choice when they joined. One of the women in the militia lovingly holds Nadia, explaining to Sophia that somebody had come to the barracks that morning, which is how they were reunited. Sophia explains that the man who returned Nadia gave the name Mr. Matt, but she suspects it was fake. She reveals he was the guard who was with the colonel's forces, leaving her comrades confused and questioning who Matt is. Sophia lays out her reasoning for her comrades. She believes that because this Matt was observing everything, he must have known about her incredible shooting skills. Yet he chose not to inform Colonel Giscoro and, against all odds, returned her daughter Nadia to her. She tells them she has thought it all over. A senior officer urges Sophia to stay, stating that with a shooter like her, their situation could change for the better. However, a female soldier correctly guesses what Sophia has been contemplating, whether to quit the militia or not. Sophia turns away from her comrades, gently stroking her daughter's hair. She quietly admits that everyone might think she is being irresponsible for what she is about to do. Clutching Nadia tightly, Sophia confesses to the captain. She never imagined she would hold her child again and hadn't considered what would happen if she did. Now, faced with that reality, she doesn't believe she can be both a mother and a soldier. With a heavy heart, she announces, "I want to quit." Sophia says a simple, heartfelt sorry. The captain, though clearly disappointed, understands her position. "Is that so?" he sighs. "That is quite unfortunate. Well, we can't force you to stay." As Sophia turns to leave with Nadia, her comrades watch in silence. The captain calls out to her one last time, trying to find the right words. The captain and the other senior members of the militia offer their unwavering support. They tell Sophia that if she ever needs anything, she must come and find them, promising they will definitely help her. The moment is broken by some of the soldiers bickering. One accuses another of wanting to take Sophia's spot or role, leading to a loud, almost comical argument that shows, in its own way, how much they will miss her presence. The senior officer agrees that it's unfortunate to lose her at such a critical time. He reaffirms their promise of help, and Sophia quietly vows to do her best to assist them in other ways. He tells her that her skill is worth that of 10 men, and that the door is always open for her to return. As if understanding the sentiment, baby Nadia looks up and says, "Thank you very much." Now alone with her daughter, Sophia stands and looks out over the quiet landscape, the weight of her decisions and the events of the past day settling upon her. Holding Nadia close, Sophia is overwhelmed with emotion, her voice breaking as she whispers an apology to her daughter. "I'm sorry. Mother has become a murderer." But in that moment of profound guilt, her daughter Nadia looks up into her mother's tear-streaked face and for the very first time speaks a single, perfect word, "Mammy." Hearing her daughter's first word, Sophia's pained expression melts away, and tears well up in her eyes as the weight of the moment overcomes her. Letting out all her pent-up grief and guilt, Sophia breaks down completely, clutching her daughter tightly as she sobs uncontrollably. After her emotional release, a sense of calm settles over Sophia. She looks out at the quiet landscape, gently patting her daughter and whispering, "Good girl." The scene transitions to a large, official-looking building, signaling a new focus for the story. A title card appears, number 2, Recruiting. Outside the building, the citizens of Dacia are gathered. The desperation is palpable as a child cries to his father for bread. An official, likely the mayor, begins to address the crowd while militia soldiers stand guard. Inside, an emergency meeting is underway with the city's leaders. The portly mayor of Dacia, adjusting his tight tie, asks everyone to state the problems the city is facing so they can deal with them. A nun is the first to speak, confirming that many people are complaining about the severe scarcity of food. Another council member adds that the dwindling food supplies might push desperate citizens to join the enemy liberation army. After hearing the initial reports, the mayor grimly concludes, "So, ensuring our food supply is the most important task." The situation is dire. Due to the blockade, the city's storehouses are already running low, and the surrounding farmlands are not a main source of food. The mayor then puts a wealthy weapons manufacturer, Mr. Thomas, on the spot, pointing out his privileged position and tax cuts. Feeling cornered, Mr. Thomas insists that he is a citizen of Dacia too and would not hesitate to use his wealth to help if he could. The captain, sitting beside him, listens quietly to the exchange. Another council member details the city's isolation. Communication lines have been cut, preventing any trade or information gathering. On top of that, since the rebellion began, the city's currency has lost over half its value and will soon be worthless. The leaders grimly accept the reality of their situation. They must secure food and re-establish outside communication before the citizens resort to radical, desperate measures. The captain offers a glimmer of hope. He identifies a target, the third grain silo area, 30 kilometers east, which recently had its wheat harvest. He proposes that if they can control that area, the city's food problem will be solved. When asked if the militia can do it, he confirms they'll do their best, but there's a problem. The captain explains his reservation. The militia lost manpower in the recent battle and is already stretched thin just maintaining patrols. They lack the numbers to send a force to the farm regions, and the devalued currency makes recruiting new soldiers nearly impossible. Mr. Thomas suggests a new strategy, asking the city's influential members, particularly the church, to spearhead the recruitment efforts. The captain agrees, adding that holding the recruitment in front of the church could increase the sense of urgency. The nun concurs, believing that through faith and love for their home, the church can rally the citizens to the danger and encourage them to enlist. The nun nervously fidgets with her cross. After a moment of solemn consideration for the city's fate, she gives her consent. "All right, for the city. Let our Lord allow what we are about to do here." In the city square, a hooded figure preaches to the crowd, urging them to join the patrol militia for the sake of their city and families, promising that the Lord will bless their service. At the recruitment table, men are signing up, but some are hesitant. One man is shocked to learn there's no pay, while another questions what guarantee even means in their current situation. The crowd debates the risks. Some believe the city's defenses are strong, making it a safe job. Others are cynical, refusing to join without pay or a guarantee of safety, arguing that if the city is doomed, they'd rather leave than die for it. A woman with white hair, holding a small child, approaches the recruitment table and declares her intention to join. The recruiters ask for her name and reason for volunteering as she looks on with fierce determination. The discussion at the recruitment table continues, with the priest-like figure looking increasingly flustered by the tense atmosphere and the piercing gaze of the woman volunteering. Elsewhere, members of the militia are discussing the new recruits. One cynically remarks that a military otaku probably joined just to play with guns, but another recruit insists it's different now that real bullets are flying. A female officer points out that the captain believes this new batch of recruits will likely be too gung-ho and troublesome, or even mentally disturbed. She reluctantly agrees that his assessment is true. A long-haired militiaman adds that they aren't asking for much from the recruits. Any reason, like "I have too much time on my hands," is fine as long as they get the bodies. A young female recruit wonders about the reason, "Don't know why." A large, dark-skinned recruit cheerfully states he joined because "Arnest recruited me," while the young woman thinks to herself that he could probably survive in any environment. The long-haired man notes they might also get recruits motivated by revenge. The young female recruit with the medical bag recalls the woman with the baby, questioning if the baby's signs of intestine rot were real. The long-haired man scolds her for not speaking up, but she confesses she couldn't say anything in that atmosphere. As the group walks through an alley, one of them asks how many new recruits they managed to gather. Two officers review the recruitment papers. 13. One says, 3 of them are somehow usable. He decides the farm occupation team will have to include them, much to the other's surprise. Arnest protests that it's crazy. Turning a citizen into a soldier takes at least a month of training. The captain counters that they have no time and must use those who look usable. He admits only the self-proclaimed mercenary seems remotely capable, and because he must remain in Dacia for training and negotiations, he needs to entrust the operation to Arnest. Arnest is stunned. The captain insists it's an important job he can only leave to those he trusts, sarcastically asking if he should let Monadu command instead. Arnest, flustered, pleads, please no, but this. The captain lays out the plan. Arnest will lead a team of 10. He can pick 6 veterans, but the remaining 4 must be chosen from the new recruits. Arnest looks on, overwhelmed, as he shuffles through the papers. The selection begins. First on the list is a self-proclaimed mercenary named Nikolai. He claims to have years of experience, and though they can't verify it, he looks usable enough to be trusted. Next is Michelle, the town's deer meat shop owner, who says she is interested in hunting. They have high expectations for her shooting skills and good personality. Arnest considers the first 2 choices. The list continues with 14-year-old Rosa, who is willing to fight and wants to become a sniper. She is being brought along for her potential. Then there's Rutsin, a 20-year-old ex-prisoner, chosen for his physical abilities despite his difficult personality. The captain questions bringing Rosa along just because she wants to be a sniper. Arnest recalls their first real battle 4 days ago, stating they're no longer innocent third parties, but have actual enemies shooting at them. The captain concedes that they wouldn't have won that struggle without a sniper. A sniper can suppress the enemy with fewer bullets than a machine gun, which is crucial for conserving their limited ammo. Arnest concludes that with their supply conditions, they need to train more support snipers. The captain agrees, but points out the harsh reality. They have no time to train Rosa in shooting or long-distance aiming. With only 2 weeks of food left according to the mayor, the situation is dire. The captain orders Arnest to gather his members, conduct briefings, and explain the mission's purpose to motivate the new recruits. An officer blows a whistle, gathering the new recruits. Spend 3 days training them, he commands, enough to be usable on the battlefield, all right? The title card ominously states, one can't turn into a useful soldier in just 3 days, highlighting the impossible task ahead. Despite the daunting timeline, the new recruits are gathered for their first briefing. The captain addresses them directly. Right, we will now begin the briefing. All of you newcomers should listen well, setting a serious tone for the urgent mission. Arnest begins the briefing, explaining the mission, an expedition to the Wuzma Plateau to occupy the 3rd grain silo area. This will solve Dacia's food shortage and prevent riots. The 4 new recruits, Michelle, Rosa, Nikolai, and Rutsin, are told they will undergo intense training for the next 3 days. The other new members, Bitari, Grace, and Katsui, are excited for their chance to shine. A map outlines the operation, scheduled for May 30th at 0500 hours. The objective is to occupy the central granary on the Wuzma Plateau and transport the food back to Dacia within 2 weeks. They must use any means necessary to achieve the objective if enemy forces are encountered. The journey is expected to take 2 days on foot. The captain stresses the urgency of the mission. He warns that according to the mayor, riots over empty food stores will break out within 2 to 3 weeks. He calls the plan thoughtless, but emphasizes that everyone must understand why it absolutely has to succeed. He then asks if there are any questions. Nikolai scoffs at the plan, questioning why there is no reward and why a Farca like Arnest is being made the squad leader. Arnest calmly explains that reward will be paid out when the city's supplies and currency have improved, and that the squad leader's race has no bearing on the operation's success. The captain addresses the recruits, stating that if the operation fails, Dacia's government will shut down and they will all become practice targets for the liberation citizens. He tells Nikolai to stop worrying about other members' ethnicities now that he's part of the militia. With the briefing concluded, the captain announces that the training will now begin and tells the recruits to head outside when they are ready. Outside, the training is underway. An instructor teaches the recruits how to handle their weapons, noting that basic body training, weapon handling, rules, and hand signals must all be drilled into them in just 3 days. Ernest observes the new recruits as they crawl under barbed wire. He thinks to himself that they need to know the physical and psychological limits of each recruit, because if anyone runs away during battle, they don't have the manpower to fill the losses. Michelle struggles with the physical demands of the training, sweating and panting heavily as she grips her rifle. Ernest assesses Michelle's performance. Her lack of strength and poor weapon handling make it clear her claim of having a hunting hobby was a lie. However, he also notes her approachable personality and eagerness to learn, suspecting she must have another reason for volunteering. In contrast, Rosa and Rutsin are performing much closer to what their resumes claimed. Rutsin seems to have a limitless supply of energy, while Rosa displays an unexpected level of skill. Ernest muses, being young is nice. While Nikolai takes a smoke break, Rosa excitedly tells her leader she wants to try sniping. Ernest is pleased, thinking her positive attitude is good and might rub off on the others. Ernest sizes up Nikolai, a classic mainlander who is racist towards any other ethnic group. He acknowledges that while Nikolai is the most skilled, his tendency to ignore orders and cause problems will make him the most dangerous type of recruit once battle starts. Ernest internally panics, realizing he only has 2 dependable members, Subahan and Yuzuha. The other 3 veterans are just average. He questions his own selection as leader, admitting he has no expedition experience. That night, under a starry sky, some of the militia members gather at a tavern to drink. One of them looks at the others and asks, "Hey, can you guys accept it?" Yuzuha voices her frustration, saying it feels weird that the patrol militia carries the entire city's future, yet they're the only ones putting their lives on the line. One of her companions tries to be pragmatic, stating that in this situation, they have no choice but to do whatever they can. He asks, "So what about it?" Yuzuha continues her rant, wishing the mainlanders would blend in better and not act so superior. Her anger then shifts to that woman, questioning if now is the time to be slaughtering fellow, suffering islanders. Yuzuha's anger boils over. She yells that she'll fight alone if she has to and curses the escapee, Sophia, for running off after one battle. She argues that if Sophia wanted to save her baby, she should have stayed in the militia where they would have helped. Another member quietly suggests Sophia has her own troubles, noting that a mixed blood child is a complicated issue. Yuzuha whirls around, shouting back that there have been lots of complications, many times so, before catching herself. She elaborates that they have problems too, even if not mixed blood problems. Everyone had things they wanted to do and plans for their lives. Slamming her mug down on the table, Yuzuha finishes her thought, exclaiming that at this rate, all of those plans will be ruined. From a dark, empty hallway, a voice bitterly remarks, "All because of that selfish woman." Subahan tells Yuzuha to calm down, while another soldier tries to defuse the situation, pointing out that the previous battle wasn't just Sophia's fault, even if her actions were selfish. Overwhelmed, Yuzuha begins to cry as a comrade embraces her, telling her to shut up and not to sleep. Ernest watches the scene unfold, musing to himself that everyone truly has their own problems. A soldier asks Ernest why Monadu is so popular and if they are in a relationship. Ernest, tired and wanting to forget about work, dismisses the idea, suggesting it might just be an old friendship because the soldier knows how disappointing Monadu can be. Ernest teases the young soldier, saying if he's that serious about Yuzuha, he should confess to her now. His tone then becomes grave as he reminds him that tomorrow's expedition has a high chance of injury or death, and their jobs are no longer as simple as scaring off bandits with a few machine gun shots. Ernest continues, acknowledging that it could be a simple mission, but there was a specific reason he included the young soldier. He explains that they will have more responsibility than the others. The young soldier, holding his drink, looks up and asks, "Am I joining as a rifleman?" Ernest simply looks on, taking a drag from his cigarette. The captain explains the grim reality of the food shortage. Whether their mission succeeds or fails, the city's food supply will be at a dangerous level. This is why they are not bringing Dacia's famed horse messenger, as there is no base to support it. The soldier has a moment of horrified realization. So they will start killing animals like horses. He murmurs. Arnis confirms his fear, saying, so that's why. The captain reminisces about the soldier's horse, recalling that his family runs a ranch and that he bought the horse years ago when horse racing was popular in the capital, wanting to be in the races. The soldier closes his eyes, remembering. He says the horse was a smart, well-bred one, but the farm had to close down due to a disease outbreak. Another militia member enters, telling the group it's almost time to start and they should get some sleep. He points out it will be a problem if they're tired and the operation fails. He then turns to Arnest, saying, "You had no reason to interrupt, Monadu." Arnest looks down at the table, apologizing. "It's my fault for asking such a depressing question." "Sorry," he says. The soldier reassures Arnest not to worry, as the farm closed down years ago. He forces a smile, saying he grew up raising horses, so he doesn't object to eating horse meat. He then tells Arnest to get some sleep for the next day. Arnest looks up, his expression grim and troubled by the weight of the conversation and the choices that lie ahead. The scene fades to a wide view of the city under a vast, starry night sky. The final thought hangs in the air. That's true. The chapter concludes with the title, Number 4. Separated. The militia detachment arrives at their destination, the third grain silo area. A caption warns that leading the group of amateur recruits is a spearhead operation to reclaim the silo, but the Liberation Army, which vastly outnumbers them, lies in wait. In a frantic side story, the Dacia defense plan is determined. Helsadisa of the support division is shocked that every member must fight from night to morning. Meanwhile, Ammo Smith Yasizo is in tears over a request for 50 rounds of D-31 ammo by morning. A different team is ordered to gather D-38 and DMG-1 ammunition immediately. 2 hours later, Foka asks if Yasizo has finished, while Ina worries about Sophia's bullets. Foka dismisses the concern, saying they can't give her the expensive D-31 rounds. Their conversation is pointless, as Yasizo is fast asleep. The scramble for ammo continues. Helsadisa desperately asks Yasizo why he won't sell any D-38 or DMG-1 rounds, pleading that it's a secret for an emergency. Yasizo cries that it's impossible to make 50 rounds so quickly, leaving the team to wonder what to do. Yasizo, with a sly grin, says he's curious what his merchandise will be used for. When his hidden collection of special ammunition is mentioned, he's quickly tied up and presented with cash. Defeated, he hands over a full clip of powerful rounds as the team exclaims he should have just given it to them in the first place. In front of a grand, aging building, a send-off ceremony is underway for a new squad of soldiers. One of them cynically notes that this is likely just for appearances, a political move by the mayor to slow the deterioration of public order. Among the soldiers, doubt spreads. A young recruit voices his concern, questioning if a mere ceremony will have any real effect on their situation. The scene flashes to a tense moment in the past. Arnest berates a young, panicked soldier for firing without orders. The soldier can only stare in shock as he realizes the enemy is now returning fire. Arnest, his face set with grim determination, cocks his gun. He tells the insubordinate soldier that they will talk later, implying severe consequences for his mistake. Back at the ceremony, the mayor of Dacia addresses the assembled crowd and soldiers. He announces that in exchange for this display of military might, all citizens will be ordered to assist the expedition, starting with the merchants and wives' clubs preparing rations. A soldier elaborates on the support they've received. Richard's former employer, the Dalmertia Corporation, has supplied assault rifles, while other companies have donated backpacks, field supplies, and even previously barred stick grenades. As the mayor drones on, telling the expedition force to do their best, a young soldier, Rosa, lets out a massive, drunken-sounding yawn. From the crowd, Arnest observes her, noting the captain's earlier simple-minded comment. The mayor continues his speech, urging the citizens who remain behind to support the troops with determination and pride. However, the crowd is filled with doubt, with some whispering amongst themselves, questioning if a mere 10 soldiers can truly overcome the difficulties ahead. The crowd's reaction is one of bored silence, with one person thinking to themselves how terrible the speech is. Finally, a commander shouts for the Wuzma Plateau Expedition Unit to about face, bringing the tedious ceremony to an end. A soldier watches as the squad turns to leave, while the commander continues his speech, reminding them that every citizen expects their fullest effort and that they should conduct the operation with the pride of a audacious citizen. Led by Arnest, the squad of 10 soldiers begins their march out of the city. The citizens line the streets, waving flags and cheering them on, their faces a mixture of hope and concern. The crowd murmurs with worry, recognizing some of the guards from a previous battle. The mayor looks on with a concerned expression as citizens question if this squad will be all right, with one pointing out that there's even a child mixed in with them. Watching the procession from a window, a woman holding a small child finds a sliver of hope. She's heard there's an excellent sniper with them, and she expects a good showing from the squad. The scene shifts, leaving the city behind. The squad has now entered a dense, quiet forest, the sunlight filtering through the thick canopy of trees. Deep within the woods, Arnest brings the squad to a halt. He announces his decision to split the team, noting that they should be just outside their usual patrol area. The soldiers are surprised by the order. A few of them exchange worried glances, questioning the logic of splitting up such a small squad. Arnest explains that he doesn't want the entire group to be wiped out in a single enemy encounter. Arnest explains the basic squad tactic of leaping. The squad will be split into 2 rotating roles, an advancing squad and a supporting squad. This will allow their forces to pin down and destroy the enemy before they realize what's happening. Arnest designates the members of Squad A. It will consist of Nikolai, Rutsin, Rosa, and Yuzaha, with himself taking the role of leader. Next, he announces the lineup for Squad B: Badari, Michelle, Katsuya, and Grace, with Subahan placed in command. Arnest pulls Subahan aside for a moment. He gives him a direct order. Squad members must obey their commander's orders, and if the commander dies, the next most senior patrol militia member will take over. Arnest tells Subahan that if a battle happens, his squad will be the main force. He explains that he has gathered the least dependable people into his own squad, and that Subahan should only need to watch out for Michelle's lack of endurance. The story shifts to the present. In a dilapidated, vine-covered building, a small child sleeps peacefully amidst the clutter of a dark, messy room. Subahan agrees, saying he understands. Sophia, now with an eye patch, watches over the sleeping child. Suddenly, the door creaks open. A well-dressed woman and man stand in the doorway, having finally found her. The woman at the door, Schwedrin, stares at Sophia with a stern, judgmental expression, her voice cutting as she addresses her simply as Schwedrin, sister-in-law. Her anger immediately spills over. She questions Sophia about what has happened in the 3 months since her little brother, Rubens, died. Schwedrin explains she came straight from the capital after hearing the place was ransacked, but couldn't reach her, demanding to know what Sophia is doing there after all this time. Schwedrin continues to berate Sophia, asking if she knows how much trouble she is causing others and why she didn't contact them for help. Sophia can only look down, clutching her child in shame. Looking around the ransacked room, Sophia tearfully apologizes, promising to find a way to compensate for the merchandise her late husband, Rubens, lost. But Schwedrin coldly states she didn't come for compensation. Schwedrin reveals their cruel logic. They try to contact Sophia to discuss the child's future, but claim the city is meant for mixed-race people, and they have no room to hire another mixed and disabled girl. She concludes that at this rate, Sophia can't even raise the child herself. Sophia asks what she means. Schwedrin's husband explains their plan. They will head back to the capital with the island army, where there is abundant food and a chance for a good education. The Meskark's house will officially adopt the child. Her brother-in-law explains the family's prejudice. Considering the island's deep-seated racism, especially in a city of mainlanders, bringing Sophia back would lower their family standing. He admits he was against Reuben's marrying her from the start, knowing she would bring misfortune. Sophia holds her child close, arguing that even if mixed, this is Reuben's child. She is still theirs and carries their family's blood. Schwedrin coldly takes the baby from Sophia's arms, telling her to forget everything about the child. She claims they aren't doing it for selfish reasons, but because Sophia has no power or livelihood to provide for her future. It will be easier this way. As tears stream down her face, Sophia listens in stunned silence as her sister-in-law claims that this way, no one loses. She asks Sophia if she can understand that. As a final insult, Schwedrin throws a stack of cash on the floor. She calls it a farewell gift, acknowledging that Dacia's currency may devalue, but telling Sophia to find a way to make a living. As they are about to leave with the crying baby, Schwedrin's husband has one last request. He asks Sophia to please tell them the child's name, as a small comfort. The scene abruptly flashes back to the past, to the military expedition in the forest. As the young soldier Rosa marches with her squad, her present-day voice echoes in her mind, stating with quiet finality, Nadia. Her name is Nadia. Back in the past, the squad continues its trek through the woods. One of the soldiers, Grace, is clearly struggling, breathing heavily and looking unwell. Arnis calls for another rest, announcing that they'll be at Wuzma Plateau soon and may have to move during the night. The decision is met with immediate complaint from another soldier. The soldier, Rutsin, complains that a normal soldier can cover 30 kilometers in a day and that they're crawling because Arnis picked bad recruits. Nearby, the young Michelle asks what reconnoiter means, prompting Arnis to ask Rosa if she has the strength to scout the plateau. Subahan interjects, telling Arnis his squad will handle the scouting. He then explains to Michelle that reconnoiter means to check for enemies. Arnis looks on, frustrated, thinking that the recruits only have 3 days of training. As Subahan's squad departs, Arnis thanks him, though he thinks to himself that he didn't want to have to use him in this way. Arnis asks Rosa for an update on Grace's condition. Rosa reports that her stamina is far worse than expected, and she's suffering from a slight case of altitude sickness. Arnis considers stopping for the day. Suddenly, without warning, a loud gunshot echoes through the forest, fired from a rifle. The unexpected gunshot startles the resting soldiers. Rosa, Michelle, and Grace all look up in alarm, trying to figure out where the sound came from. Arnis immediately springs into action, readying his gun and shouting for Yuzuha and Michelle to respond. Rosa acknowledges the order, though her expression is filled with uncertainty. The soldiers are in disarray, demanding to know what's going on. Another recruit points towards the shooter, stating that he doesn't know why, but the soldier just suddenly opened fire. Arnis confronts the shooter, Rutsin, who is working the bolt of his rifle. Enraged, Arnis demands to know who told him to fire without permission, especially when an enemy might be near. In the middle of a snowy field, a soldier points towards a distant mountain, explaining to his comrades that he saw a human-sized shape and opened fire. He urges them to hurry and investigate. Arnis, the squad leader, is shocked, questioning if the soldier really saw something 400 meters away. Beside them, Rosa, a young soldier, looks on in disbelief at the sudden turn of events. Arnis quickly regains his composure and takes command. He orders Squad B to advance to the forest on the right side of the mountain and immediately suppress any enemy they encounter. The orders continue as another soldier tells Nikolai and Rosa to assist Squad B. Yuzuha is instructed to bring Michelle, who looks on with a worried expression, questioning the sudden urgency. The soldiers don't hesitate, scrambling into action. A rifle is shown ready in the grass before the panel shows the squad beginning their charge up the hill. The scene reveals the enemy, a small group of 4 fighters in civilian clothing, firing back from a concealed position. Below, Rosa's eyes widen as she takes in the reality of the firefight. As the squad advances, a soldier points out the enemy's location, shouting their coordinates in number. 10 o'clock, 150 meters. For arm, they prepare to engage. Arnest issues a clear tactical order as they sprint towards the woods. They're to hold their fire and pin the enemy down from the forest to allow squad to move up. As the squad reaches the relative safety of the trees, with bullets whizzing past them, Rosa gives the command to start the assault. Open fire. The soldiers quickly take cover behind trees, returning fire and turning the quiet forest into a chaotic battlefield filled with the sound of gunfire. Rosa, with intense focus, leans out from behind cover and unleashes a heavy barrage of suppressing fire from her machine gun. Pinned down by the unexpected firepower, one of the opposing fighters yells out in surprise, "What is that gun?" His comrade, equally impressed, replies, "I don't know, but I want one too." Amidst the firefight, an officer desperately yells for his troops to push forward and throw themselves onto the mountain, while soldiers in the foreground provide covering fire. From their prone positions, the soldiers continue to lay down a heavy and effective barrage of suppressive fire, preventing the enemy from maneuvering. Nikolai, a blonde soldier, turns on Rosa, berating her. He condescendingly says that firing ahead is simple and something even her hick school should have taught, before ordering her to grab a grenade from his bag. Nikolai's anger escalates as he grabs Rosa, ironically telling her to read the situation and not bring her personal biases into the battle. His rant devolves into a prejudiced tirade, blaming Rosa for bringing the wrong people and insulting her based on her background, questioning if she finally realizes she's trash. From her position, Rosa wonders what the holdup is. Her squad notes that there's no movement from the enemy, realizing that at this rate, they're just wasting precious ammunition. Rosa grips her weapon, her mind working tactically. She knows that without resupply, they can't afford to let this small skirmish drag on into a battle of attrition. A soldier calls out to his comrade, Kitsia, telling him to drop his pack and follow him as they prepare to move from their covered position. Panic begins to set in among the militia fighters. They realize their disadvantage, being only 4 people against a unit of skilled soldiers, and fear the possibility of a sniper. One of the fighters is reminded of their mission's purpose. They must protect the granary for Levinta and Hessa. However, another argues back, insisting that the current fight is a futile waste of ammo and lives. The internal squabble is cut short by the immediate danger. Now's not the time for that, a fighter shouts as the reality of the battle takes precedence. From her vantage point, Rosa sees the soldiers beginning to charge from the woods. Below, the militia fighters spot the advance and realize they are about to be surrounded. A split-second decision is made. The man in the cowboy hat yells for one of them to run back and get away, declaring that the other 3 will stay behind to hold off the soldiers. As one of the militia members makes a run for it, a soldier shouts, "Shit, one's running." Another immediately orders suppressing fire, while Rosa continues to provide cover from the woods. Rosa observes the chaos as the militia members making their last stand return fire from the hilltop. The man in the cowboy hat fires his pistol, trying to hold off the advancing soldiers. The soldiers charge up the hill, their machine gun blazing. The sheer force of their assault overwhelms the militia's defensive position in a storm of bullets and chaos. The machine gun fire rips through the militia's ranks. During the firefight, a soldier checks on his comrade, Subahan, who appears to have been hit. Rosa watches with concern. Having successfully taken the enemy's position, the soldiers lie prone on the ground, securing the area and preparing for their next move. The surviving militia members realize the soldiers are reloading. Seizing the opportunity, their leader decides to launch a counterattack, his eyes filled with determination. But it's too late. Subahan, seemingly recovered from his injury, gets the drop on them. He and Rosa stand over the defeated fighters, ordering them to drop their weapons or be killed. Completely defeated, the remaining militia fighters surrender. "Shit. Okay. One of them says, dropping his weapon in resignation. Subahan warns the prisoners not to resist, making it clear they will be killed if they don't cooperate. He hopes to extract valuable information from them, as Rosa and the others look on. The rest of the squad arrives, surrounding the captured militia. Ernest and Rosa approach, and Ernest immediately asks Subahan if he is all right. Subahan dismisses the concern, explaining that thanks to his helmet, he only got a scratch. He quickly shifts focus, stating the priority is now to interrogate the prisoners. The interrogation begins. Ernest asks the prisoners for the location of their base, claiming his squad is fighting for the citizens of Dacia to survive the war. The captured leader smirks and tries to turn the tables, appealing to Ernest's ethnicity. "Hey, you're a FARC," he says. "Why don't you join the revolution?" The prisoner continues, claiming the island has no future. Subahan coldly cuts him off, demanding he answer the question and warning that they don't have the resources to care for uncooperative prisoners. Another prisoner spits defiance, declaring he'll never help a minion of those city-dwelling mainlanders. He claims that whether they starve or die in the revolution, it's all the same to them. Without warning, Nikolai executes the defiant prisoner with a single shot to the head. The woman next to him screams in horror as her comrade falls. The brutality continues as the horrified woman is also shot and killed, her body slumping to the ground next to her fallen comrade. Nikolai justifies the cold-blooded executions, arguing that the Liberation Army would only send loyalists on patrol. He suggests they should pursue the one who escaped, but Ernest glares at him, seething. Subahan counters that it's too late to catch the escapee. He also reminds them that they have to care for Michelle, who is suffering from altitude sickness and being supported by Yuzaha. Filled with rage at his recruits' insubordination, Ernest reluctantly agrees. "Fine," he growls, vowing that he has a mountain of things to teach them. Below, Nikolai smirks arrogantly. As night begins to fall, Ernest announces that the squad will make camp nearby. Rosa lies exhausted in the grass, while Subahan sits up, tending to his wounded eye. The scene opens deep in a forest at night. Soldiers are resting around small, dugout-like shelters built into the earth beneath large trees, their temporary camp set for the night. A young soldier, Yuzaha, tends to a comrade's wound. She reassures him, saying, "This wound will heal itself in a few days. You're very lucky, Subahan." Subahan gets a sudden nosebleed, flustered by the attention. Yuzaha tries to calm him down, telling him to get a hold of himself. Another soldier, Grace, watches with an unamused expression, thinking that his antics have ruined the moment. Grace decides to take the initiative and teach the younger recruits. "Let Big Sis Grace teach you," she declares. She explains to a worried Michelle and another soldier that approaching an enemy at night is difficult for both sides. Grace continues her practical lesson on strategy. She explains that for caution, they had two other soldiers, Kitsuya and Batari, start a fire away from them as bait. She bluntly tells the recruits that in this army, they are nothing more than disposable pawns. Holding her canteen, Grace looks at the nervous recruits, Michelle and another soldier, as she prepares to review their earlier actions. The squad leader, Ernest, begins to reprimand a soldier named Rutsin. He states that because Rutsin fired without orders, they were forced into a disadvantageous battle where they nearly lost Subahan. Ernest continues his stern lecture, reminding Rutsin that firing without permission is grounds for dismissal from the army. A dark-skinned soldier listens intently, as Ernest warns Rutsin that there won't be a next time. Ernest addresses the whole patrol militia, stating that they are made of fully armed soldiers and independent acts are absolutely prohibited. He reminds them of their training. Never put your finger on the trigger before you intend to fire. Ernest asks if anyone is even listening. Rutsin scoffs in defiance, while Yuzaha looks exhausted by the lecture. Ernest explains that firing without notifying allies not only risks missing, but also gives away their position. Ernest then turns his attention to the dark-skinned soldier, sarcastically noting that while pulling a trigger is easy, becoming a trained expert in just 3 days is impressive. He criticizes the soldier for his recent violent crimes, questioning his professionalism. The soldier looks down, troubled by Ernest's words. Ernest tells him to get into it, wanting him to understand the gravity of his role. Ernest continues to lecture the soldier, smiling wryly as the man sits in thoughtful silence. Suddenly, another soldier, Nikolai, interrupts. With a cigarette in his mouth, he scoffs at Ernest, asking if the squad was delayed and someone almost lost because of his own prejudiced viewpoint. The dark-skinned soldier snaps back at Nikolai, accusing him of pushing his responsibilities onto him whenever something goes wrong. Nikolai, now smoking 2 cigarettes at once, simply says, "I don't understand you." The tension in the camp is palpable as the argument hangs in the air. The other soldiers, including Michelle and Grace, look on with concern. Sensing the deep-seated animosity, Michelle quietly asks Grace, "Hey, Michelle, why does Mr. Nikolai hate us, FARC people?" Yuzaha decides it's time for a history lesson. She stands before the recruits and begins to explain the origin of the island's inhabitants, the people now known as islanders, who once built an affluent nation known for its steel and ceramics. Yuzaha continues, explaining that after 1430, mainlanders installed a government to rule the island. Then, about 100 years ago, the colonial power of Steinberg initiated the Stability War and occupied the island. She explains to Michelle that many immigrants, who came to be called mainlanders and FARCs, later arrived from Steinberg. "You and I," she says, "are both descendants of these immigrants." Grace joins in the explanation, clarifying that FARCs come from a different country, Taistan, and hold a lower position in society than those ethnically from Steinberg. She tells them to listen closely, as this isn't taught in official school books. Yuzaha elaborates on the uncomfortable truth of a blood caste system. She explains that the prejudice of the immigrant mainlanders led to the natural social order of today, where the original islanders who lost the war were also treated as lower class. The lesson delves deeper into how this prejudice created an occupational hierarchy. Mainlanders work in government and large industries, while islanders, and some FARCs, are relegated to small crafts and agriculture. Yuzaha shows a map illustrating the geographic segregation. Mainlanders settled along coastal trade routes, while islanders and FARCs were pushed into the agricultural south or mountainous north. She explains that this physical and economic isolation is the root of the deep-seated blood prejudice of their time, fostering mutual disdain between the ethnic groups. But Grace adds that there is one final, tragic layer to this prejudice: the mixed blood problem. A new image of a sharp-eyed soldier with an eye patch appears as she explains these are the people who, to this day, are not accepted by any ethnic group. The history lesson continues, explaining that because mixed blood people could be easily identified by their hair and eye color, they were shunned. This was especially cruel for the first generation, who were rejected from work and support. As a result, they settled the rough wilderness and built their own towns. As the lesson concludes, Michelle is finding it hard to stay awake. Ernest notes that only mainlanders in the rural areas, like Nikolai, still hold such strong prejudices. The history teacher explains that their town, Daisha, was founded by a first generation that created a religion ensuring equal treatment. It and the nearby farmlands are now full of mixed bloods, making their mission to protect the granary vital. Another soldier turns to Grace, asking if she also holds those prejudices since she looks like a mainlander. Grace shakes her head, explaining that because she was raised in Daisha, she dislikes that way of thinking. Subahan remarks to Yuzaha how strange it is to use a battle from long ago to determine one's life, comparing it to replacing self-respect with lineage. A sleepy Michelle murmurs her agreement, while Yuha says that, despite her words, there is no way Grace is completely without biases. Grace becomes wildly excited, praising Subahan as a prodigy for his insight. Michelle, now wide awake, is stunned at Grace's reaction, thinking Subahan must have said something truly profound. Having listened to the entire explanation, the dark-skinned soldier quietly says, "I see." Sensing the lesson is over, Nikolai takes a drag from his cigarette and brings the focus back to their situation, then about the matter at hand. Nikolai addresses the dark-skinned soldier from across the camp. He states that he can't force the man to abandon his beliefs, and that he can insult and berate him all he wants. Nikolai will simply watch and not interfere. In exchange, the soldier makes his own demand. Nikolai must do his job, obey orders, and show his sense of duty. He gives a stark warning that if the operation fails, Nikolai won't get any payment. Nikolai scoffs, calling the soldier Black Cat. He asserts his status as a professional soldier, unlike the amateurs in the squad, and states he doesn't believe in working before getting paid. The soldier, Black Cat, retorts that if Nikolai wants to be commanded, he should act like an officer. He will follow any order given, but how Nikolai chooses to give that order is his own problem. Rutsin mutters that Nikolai can't be counted on as a combat force anyway. Meanwhile, the dark-skinned soldier comforts a weary Michelle, who seems to accept the tense agreement. Yuzuha sighs, wondering why she's leading a bunch of problem characters. In another panel, Nikolai dismisses the enemy liberation army as amateurs, vowing to succeed even without the help of this guy. The scene changes to a wide view of the rolling hills they must cross. The squad leader emphasizes the urgency, stating they must reach the granary today, or the town will be in danger. A close-up shows a hand gripping a rifle. The order is given. They will maintain squad discipline and advance by leaping. Everyone is to hold their fire and move out. The squad begins to run across the open terrain. One soldier shouts encouragement to Michelle. Ernest gives the order to advance, reminding his soldiers not to slack off and to watch their surroundings. As they run, Nikolai shouts, "Hey, Rosa!" at Michelle, who seems startled and confused by the name. The squad leader sees her hesitation and yells at her to focus. Michelle insists she heard something, but she's afraid to speak up for fear that Nikolai will blame her if it's nothing. Yuzuha asks if she is all right. Nearby, Grace notes with some relief that Michelle seems better today. All stop. A soldier suddenly shouts, raising his hand to halt the squad's advance. The squad takes cover on a ridge, looking down at their objective. "We've arrived," the leader announces. This is the third grain silo area. He warns them not to show themselves to the enemy. Ernest turns to calling her by the name Rosa. He lays out the plan. To make up for their lack of numbers, they will scout the area until nightfall, and then attack. Ernest reminds Rosa of her aspiration to be a sniper. "Scouting the enemy is one of the basics of a sniper's job," he tells her. "I've taught you how, so go scout the area."